Come on, we all know it. There's just something about Saratoga.
I don't see us not having earnest stakes. There's so many in. I can't. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
What's up, buddy?
Hey. All right. Good to see you.
Dynasty in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
It's always a pleasure for me, Jonathan, to be with you. You were the first person to give me an interview when I came to United States, so I will be grateful to you forever.
I knew you were one of the best riders in the world.
Legend himself, Frankie Dettori. Ciao, Frankie. Tutto a posto.
Tutto a posto. Yes, that's a good start. So you haven't lost.
Exclusively here on Past the Wire, the Geo City Belmont Stakes seminar, live with me, doing a complete deep dive covering every horse in all 7 graded stakes races leading to the 157th Belmont Stakes.
Dornick and Mind Frame, it will be Dornick and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
It will be with our collective handicapping focus. We'll fully discuss with Q&A after each race, this for maximum preparation, so you will be as informed as possible to make your very best window decisions on this much anticipated full card day at Saratoga.
National Treasure wastes no time rocketing out of the gate. It's a 1-horse race. National Treasure and Flavian Prat making short work of the competition, devastating them in the Hillendale Metropolitan Handicap.
For as long as we need, we'll focus to the absolute finish.
You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Ciao Tony, back again, in the mood for the Belmont Festival at Saratoga Springs, Saratoga Racetrack, legendary, historic Saratoga Racetrack, and we'll get right into a couple of what I think are going to be fun things. I'm going to start with something about Kristoff Clement, who passed away recently. I do vote for the Hall of Fame inductees, and I have voted for Kristoff Clement. I think his resume has earned him a spot there. It would have been nice to see him get in before he passed, but that didn't happen. A few of my close friends that I talked to and I speculated over the past couple of months that Kristoff was not doing well because he wasn't as visible at the racetrack as he has been in the past. And, you know, that's always a concern with a guy like him who's so dedicated to what he does and has been for many, many, many years, and has really been a great trainer and a true mainstay on the New York and Irish circuit, and really a class act if you know him. I didn't know him well at all, but I have had some interactions with him, and you know, we were friendly enough. But my favorite interaction with him, and I'm just going to share this little quick story, is an old one, way back when I had horses at Gulfstream Park with Peter Walder. And you know, I've always been, those that follow me and know me knows, I've always been a car guy. I've had just about every fine automobile and exotic car that you can name. If I haven't had it, I probably just don't like it or never wanted it. But I've had them all. And it was probably, I don't know, early 90s, mid 90s, maybe late 90s. I'm guessing. But we were at Gulfstream Park. I had horses with Peter Walden. I mean, it might have been 2000, 2001, something like that. But it was back then. It was a long time ago. You know, certainly over 20 years, 25 years ago. And we had won a race on the card. And after the races, I went back. Peter used to feed the horses, went back to hang out at the barn, which I did often. I used to go to Gulfstream every day back then. And I had just bought, I mean, it was literally within maybe like a week or two old, a brand new black Jaguar sedan, black on black, all chromed out, tinted windows, XKE. They had just tweaked the body style a little bit, and it was a really sharp looking Jaguar. You know, had the Jaguar emblem on the front, and it was a sharp looking car. And I had it parked at the barn, and I had been at the track all day. The car was gleaming, the tires were shining. It was that deep, super piano black color that I like. No metallic, just the jet black. And you know, that silver chrome was just shining, and the tires shining, and the car was at the track all day, so it was relatively clean, even though I had drove it back to the barn. Like I said, you could have probably shaved it, you know, looking at it. And Kristoff Clement won a race that day. If memory serves correct, I can't remember the horse, but it was a European horse that had run first time in the country. Jose Santos rode the horse. That'll help us a little bit with the timeline, maybe. But you know, it was a European imported horse that won a nice race. I don't think it was a stake. I think this was just like a weekday, an allowance race. And as Peter and I were sitting there, Kristoff came driving by in, I don't think it was a golf cart. It might have been a little white, old, beat up barn pickup truck that he was just driving back to the barn, you know? And he stopped and got out and was looking at the Jaguar, and he was like looking at it, and he walked around and he was looking in it, and he was obviously admiring it. It was a sharp looking car. And Peter yelled over to him and said, "Hey, you know, Kristoff, you like that? It's my owner's. He's right here." And, you know, in his, you know, beautiful French accent, he was like, "Yeah, I love it. You know, it's beautiful." And I walked over and we were looking at it and admired it together. And I said, "You know what?" And this is when I owned horses, and, you know, I was halfway joking and halfway serious, but I probably would have done it. And he said, "Yeah." I said to him, I says, "Easy enough, man. You ran that horse today, win nice. I'll trade you." you take the car, give us the horse. And he was like a super cool dude. He was like, yeah. I said, absolutely, done. So he says, let me look. And he looked and he walked around and he really scrutinized it. And he got up against the tinted windows and looked in. And he looked at the tires, looked at the wheels, looked at it like he was looking at a racehorse. And then he looked at me and in that beautiful French accent, he said, you'd have to give me 10 of them. So there went that trade that never happened. But you know, Kristoff was pretty cool. So it's been a while, and a lot of people weighed in on him already. But I'll get my chance now. Rest in peace, Kristoff. I will always remember. You'd have to give me 10 of them. That was a great line and nice racing memory for me. Rest in peace. Moving on, big shout out to another old friend, Vinny Fortunato, a friend of mine who I worked with at NYRA behind the windows in the mutual department when we were mutual clerks, and my dad was a mutual clerk, and I have reconnected after all these years, believe it or not, as a result of Past the Wire TV. And this will lead into what I wanted to talk about. But Vinny was kind enough to send me this Marlboro hat. Remember when Marlboro cigarettes and cigarettes in general were allowed to be sponsors of major events, along with alcohol companies and what like that? Different time, different world. But the Marlboro Cup, the first one won by Secretariat, beats his stablemate, Riva Ridge, back-to-back Derby winners. Secretariat, of course, was a Triple Crown winner. Riva Ridge also won the Belmont, lost to, I think, BBB in the Preakness because it rained and the track came up sloppy. But anyway, back then, the Marlboro Cup was the biggest thing in racing. I think the initial purse was $250,000, which back then was like $2-3 million today. And it was the equivalent to the Breeders' Cup Classic. I mean, it was the race of races. They created it to be like the super race, and it was for a long time. And I think the second or third running, Vinny, my man, shout out, he sent me the program also. They gave this cap out for one of the Marlboro Cups first, couple of runnings, and Vinny was kind enough to send me this hat from way back then. So it's corduroy, it's old, but it's really cool. And it's the Saratoga colors all the way. So I figured it was appropriate for the Belmont Festival at Saratoga and this show, which is why I'm wearing it. And I really appreciate Vinny sending it to me. He's always been sharp handicapper, but what outweighed that always since I know him is class act 100% all the way. So Vinny, much love, appreciate you, and I'm really glad that we reconnected and that all is going well for you and yours. Now, what I wanted to talk about goes back to that older time, right? And these races are going to be run this weekend, so it's kind of appropriate to shout this out and remember it and look at how much the game has changed. Back in the 80s, which may seem like ancient history to a lot of these, I don't know, what do they call them? Generation X's and all these young kids and everything that's going on today or whatnot. But the 80s ain't that friggin' long ago. Soon, some of these young people will be looking at the 2020s like we look at the 80s. But anyway, back then, horse racing was the number frickin' one spectator sport in the country by a lot. Okay? By a lot, man. And that says something, Now, yeah, it's really, we know nosedive like a plane that thinks it's flying this way and it's flying that way, but it's nosedive. We know that, but it was the number one spectator sport. And when it was back then, the Belmont Stakes at 1.5 miles was truly a test of champions. All right. The Belmont lost a lot of luster because we don't really breed and run a lot of horses 1.5 miles anymore. And it's not as smiled upon by breeders nowadays as it was back then. So the Belmont lost luster, and now we're running it at 1.25 miles in Saratoga. And it kind of lost some luster along with the Preakness. The Preakness lost even more luster as the least significant of the Triple Crown races. It used to be right up there with the Kentucky Derby, believe it or not. Back then, winning the Belmont was akin to winning the Kentucky Derby, believe that or not. But I was there, saw enough of them, saw how it was looked at, and that's a fact. I don't care who says what. But now things change, So back then, and I wrote an article on this. I think I wrote an article on Past the Wire when I used to write the greatest streaks in horse racing history, and one of them was Woody Stevens winning 5 Belmont Stakes in a row. Okay, that was equivalent back then, a record that'll never be broken, to winning 5 Kentucky Derbies in a row. All right, you know how hard that is, man. It's like, forget about it. Ain't nobody ever going to do that. Forget about it. Just it ain't happening. Don't even worry about it. That's an enormous bet against. But Woody Stevens did it. And one of the ways in which he did it, and everybody talks about the differences in the breed and the horses and how they are and this and that and the other thing, and they can't do this and that. Let me tell you, they used to be able to do some freaky good things. Back then, the Met Mile was run on Monday, Memorial Day, which was generally the Monday before the Saturday that the Belmont Stakes was run. And I remember I was at the Belmont, and not only did Woody accomplish something unbelievable, he accomplished really 3 things unbelievable. One, he ran Conquistador Cielo Monday in the Met Mile against older horses, and he wins. It was a surprise back then to everybody that he ran that horse in the Met. Nobody thought he was going to run that horse in the Met. He did, and he won. And then he shocked the world, the racing world anyway. And like I said, back then, racing, #1 spectator sport in the United States, ahead of baseball, football, disc ball, pickleball, your sister's ass ball, name it, whatever the heck it was, racing was #1. That's how much we've slipped. Now we're number 5,642, something like that. But we were #1. And Woody decides, after the horse wins the Met Mile, to run the horse back 5 days later at 1.5 miles in the Belmont Stakes, when the Belmont Stakes was the true test of champions. And what did he do? He won it. He won it without his regular rider, Eddie Maple, who fell, I want to say, the day before. I think it was an Elliott Birch horse named Snow Girl. It was an incident the day before. Eddie went down hard. Lafitte Pincay wound up riding Conquistador Cielo in the Belmont Stakes in the slop, and he wins it. 5 days rest, wins the Belmont at 1.5 miles, and it's one of his 5 Belmont Stakes in a freaking row that he won. Woody always had a reputation as being great with young horses and great with 2-year-olds, and he was. At Saratoga, Woody Stevens' 2-year-old was like, forget about it. You had to look 3 times at him before you dismiss him. They were deadly. Saratoga was a different world and different place than it is today. Back then, it was tenfold more exciting and more dynamic than it is today, and more special. It's still special. Saratoga will always be a special place for the horse racing fan and the gambler, and it'll always have those nice pools and everything else. But there's no comparison to how it was back then to how it is today. And if you don't know, you don't know, and if you do know, now you do, and it just is what it is. But just think about it. What are the shots? Well, now you can't do it because the Met Mile and the Belmont are run on the same day, which I think I said on the last show. I think that's a mistake. I think running the Belmont running the Met Mile out of that Wilson chute is a ridiculously horrible decision and bad move. But that's what they do, and they run it the same day as the Belmont. They should have kept it on Memorial Day, run it at Aqueduct, and not mess with it and run it out of a straight mile chute. But be it as it may, they're going to run it the same day. So now you'd have to win, the 7th race, then the 13th race on the same day. And I don't even think Woody Stevens could have done that. But he did back then win the Met Mile on Monday against older horses with Conquistador Cielo, wheels them back 5 days later, and romps in the slop in the Belmont Stakes. I remember being there that Monday. I remember watching the Belmont that year. You always watch from different places. That year, I think I was standing outside in the rain in the park, in the picnic area at Belmont, and they had a like a square betting thing where the mutual clerks were in there, and me and my friend Anthony was standing with our backs up against the wall to keep under the little bit of awning there to stay dry while it was pouring, and we watched the race out in the rain from a TV out there and watched Conquistador Cielo, romp, and we loved them. We bet them. There was no pick fours or pick threes or anything back then, so we were all over the win and the doubles and whatever there was the betting back then. But we used to bet pretty hard back then. Win, I still love to bet win hard. I think the win bet is the most underrated bet in horse racing right now. People don't bet win. People give up winners in these multiple race wages, these, pick fours, pick five, pick sixes. And I love them too. And I get that you can get those big payoffs, but nothing like sending it in, especially if you're a cowboy ticket bettor. These guys bet $432 or $864 on a 50-cent pick four or pick five. That's nuts. I'd rather bet $800 on a 5-to-1 shot and have to beat one race instead of five. Just saying, game changes. With all that goes on in the game today, the more races that you involve in a sequence, the more likely you are to hit something fluky or have something fluky derail your plan. There goes the best laid plans of mice and men. So the win bet, take a look at it, man. I love betting hard to win, and everything else just making gravy to go along with that nice hit. This weekend there's a couple of horses I'm planning to make nice win bets on. They'll be on Track and Trips for those of you that are members. And I'm due. I'm overdue. I'm beyond overdue. It's been a rough year bet for me, but nevertheless, you know what I mean? We'll turn it around. We'll turn it around the right way. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over that whatsoever. But I just wanted to share those couple of quick thoughts. The win bet, it's alive. It's good. It's something that people should really, really consider. It's one race you got to beat. One time you got to be right to get paid instead of, 4 or 5 chances to be right and maybe, get derailed by, something that was just a little bit unforeseeable. Because we see in a lot of these sequences, horses win that you just can't logically get to. Some of them big prices win that you can logically get to, but sometimes there's those that you can't logically get to. So win bet underrated. And Woody's 5 Belmonts in a row ain't never going to be duplicated. And winning the Belmont Stakes when it was truly a test of champions, after winning the Met Mile against Holder 5 days later, man, just unbelievable training feat. One of the most unbelievable things that I have seen. I was there for both the races. The hype, the excitement was incredible back then. The sporting accomplishment was incredible back then. And, the horses were different. The trainers were different. The outlook was different. There were all kinds of rumors back then too. And I don't know whether they're true or not, that he tapped the horse to get him to make one of the 2 races. I don't remember which one it was. I don't know if that was true or not, but there was a lot of, even back then there were rumors about stuff like that, going on. I don't know if it was true or not, but, I do believe that Woody cared about his horses and took really good care of them. And, was a true old school horseman in every sense of the word. At least that was my impression. But think about it. 5 Belmonts in a row when the Belmont meant something. The Met Mile, same horse. 5 days rest. You won't even see anybody try that today. If I told you guys are going to run in a grade 1 5 days before the Belmont Stakes, you tell me I'm nuts. And then you want to talk about changing the Triple Crown. Well, I was dead set against that for a long time. Now I'm kind of middle of the road. Whatever they do, they do. Nobody cares what I think anyway. So I'm going to play the hand that we're dealt. But unbelievable thing. So Kristoff, rest in peace. Vinny, thank you very much. Much love, appreciated. And Woody, some of us remember. And the win bet, don't forget that either. So that's a wrap. Ciao for now. Lots more coming. See you soon. Maybe see you at Geo Seminar in a couple of days or before that. You never know. Ciao, ciao.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Welcome to Past the Wire TV, your #1 source for horse racing news and interviews, handicapping analysis, betting insights, and more. Past the Wire TV covers the biggest races at the best tracks.
Clement and Luis Saez to win the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga.
The Grey Wizard is absolutely flying. Champagne won. The Grey Wizard. Oh, it's very close. Leave it to the judge.
Like, share, and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better.